Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. I'm Max. I'm the product manager for Chrome Device Management. And today we're going to be talking about the Chrome Education Upgrade. We'll also be taking questions, doing a Q&A session in the last 10 minutes. So please leave your question in the YouTube comments and we'll come back and answer those. So we recently celebrated the 10th birthday for Chrome OS, marking the anniversary of the first pilot program of Chromebooks in schools. What we found even from the first pilots of Chromebooks was that students, teachers, and education leaders really liked how fast and simple and secure Chromebooks were. And with the Google Admin Console, school admins were also able to manage devices remotely, which has really shifted the computing model over the years, starting with computer labs to shared carts of Chromebooks in classrooms. To today, many students have assigned Chromebooks as well. And all of this was made possible because of the admin tools, which enable you to manage hundreds of thousands of devices just within a single console. Today, I'm going to walk you through the latest updates to the Chrome Education Upgrade and show you how it's easier than ever to manage Chromebooks at scale. So first, we'll talk about new policies that we recently added to the admin console. Then we'll talk about configuring policies for Google Groups. And finally, we'll talk about scripting and automating policies using the brand new, recently announced Chrome Policy API. So first, a quick overview on policies. When we started building Chromebooks 10 years ago, the norm for laptops and desktops is that you would get the device, you would create an image for the device, transfer that image, configure some settings, and distribute it to teachers or students. And you just kind of knew that you had to do that all over again in a couple of months. Chromebooks are very different. They were built differently. They were built as a more modern computer. And so part of that is that all policies on Chromebooks are configured through the cloud, configured through the Google Admin Console, which is a simple tool, but it allows for a pretty sophisticated device management. With the Admin Console, you can configure all sorts of settings remotely and push them out in just a snap to users and devices. And we've seen this scale with schools anywhere from 10 to 100 to 100,000 and even more devices. Now, because Chromebooks were built in this cloud-first way, there have always been a lot of policies available. And actually, with Chrome OS, it all started with Chrome. So configuring the browser homepage, the bookmarks, the extensions, and everything else. But what we've done over time is that we've actually grown that number now to over 500 policies available in the console. And so we've been doing a ton of work just to add as much capability for admins as possible. I'm going to talk very, very briefly just about a few of the new types of controls that we've added lately. Obviously, there are many beyond this list. But the first is OS update controls. So we hear all the time from IT admins that OS updating is one of the key things that they think about when it comes to device management. Now, Chromebooks update very seamlessly. They update in the background. So it's often very easy to just leave it as the default. But we understand sometimes admins want a bit more control over when updates happen, how long users have before the update gets applied, et cetera. So we've added a number of new policies in this area. Second is accessibility controls. So with Chromebooks, we build in tons of helpful accessibility tools right in the operating system. So you have things like built-in screen reader, dictation, high contrast, and more. And these are very powerful and important tools for end users. And so we thought it was very important that IT admins could enable them proactively where needed, as well as turn them off if needed as well. And lastly, print controls. So, of course, we know so much is digital these days, but printers still have a place too, and they work great on Chromebooks. So we have a huge number of policies related to printing now, everything from history to print graphics, paper size, document length, pretty much anything that you can think of related to print defaults and restrictions is available for configuring in the admin console. As I mentioned, we have added hundreds of new policies just within the last calendar year, so I'm just highlighting a select few. We even have a little policy for the dinosaur game that pops up if your network connection goes down. And don't worry, this one is off by default for education. Now, you might be curious where you can go to learn more about all the policies and the new things that we're adding over time. So if you just search for Chrome Education Release Notes or Chrome Enterprise Release Notes, you'll find a page that we update every 6 weeks with all of the latest and greatest features, including the specific new policies that are in Admin Console. You can sign up to get these updates in your inbox. You can sign up for a trusted tester program through the site as well. And you can download a PDF of the updates to save for later or to send around to folks. These release notes also cover every Chrome operating system release, as well as Chrome browser. So there's a ton of great information there, and you can hear about the latest features as soon as they're available. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about managing the complexity of a big school organization, maybe with a lot of different schools, different grade levels, different classes, extracurriculars, etc. Chromebooks now are used for everything from essays to science to research to video editing, all sorts of different activities. So there's a big challenge now of how can you make sure that every student gets the right set of policies for them? Well, the answer today is mostly OUs or organizational units. So you might have a OU for third grade or for a particular school, but you might not have an OU for those in the computer programming elective, for example. And maybe those students need a particular policy. Maybe they need a printer, maybe they need a particular app or extension. So earlier this year, we launched group-based policy for printers. So you can now, today, go into the admin console and assign printers to groups of users in addition to OUs. These are normal Google groups, so just like you would use today for mailing lists, but now they can also be used for policy. We think this is a great convenience tool because you can target the specific policies to the specific users that need them. And you'll start to see us bring this tool to other policies in the admin console as well. It's available for configuring the various workspace services. And over time, you'll see it included in all of the different Chrome management tools. So if you're interested in testing this out, especially testing out the other areas of Chrome management ahead of time, you can apply for our Chrome Enterprise Trusted Tester program. This includes many schools who are testing out management features in advance. And it's a great program. We get a lot of great feedback from it, and it allows you to get the newest features even before they're rolled out to the general public. So I'd encourage you to sign up for that if you're interested. Okay, finally, let's talk about the brand new, just announced Chrome Policy API. So there's now an API for managing policies on Chrome OS. In addition to using the Google Admin Console, you can write your own scripts, you can use third-party tools, and you can basically fully customize how you manage policies within your organization. The Chrome Policy API was just launched a few weeks ago with support for user settings and printer settings. So in total, there are over 250 settings supported in the API, and we'll be filling out support over the course of this year. Let's talk quickly about why you might want to use an API to manage policies. The first reason is scale. So we've all been there before where there was some type of management task that you just needed to complete over and over and over again. And sometimes that's policy. Sometimes you want to apply the same policy to many different OUs, many different parts of the organization, but maybe not every part. So it's just a specific list. So with the policy API, you can now run a quick script. You can change the policy everywhere across all of the different OUs that you want in one fell swoop. So it makes it very easy to do these types of operations at scale. Second is integrations. So sometimes you need to make a policy change based on a ticket, or maybe based on a security review or a compliance audit, or maybe you just completed the policy change and you want to close a ticket and mark it complete. So with the Policy API, you have full flexibility to integrate your policy management into whatever workflow you already have today. So policy management can now fit in with your existing tools. The third reason is policy compare and copy. So how many times have you taken the time to make the perfect policy configuration just to realize that it's slightly different in a different part of the organization? Well, the Policy API makes it really easy to compare policies between OUs, copy them from one OU to another. So no more guess and check to make sure that everything is in line. And lastly, policy import and export. The Google Admin Console already gives you an audit log of all policy changes, but sometimes it's helpful to actually back up those changes and restore them when you need to. Sometimes you just want to save all of your policies and capture a moment in time. So now with the policy API, you can do that directly in code. So you can export, edit the policies, import them again, whatever you need to do. I wanted to show you just a quick concrete example of the policy API. Sometimes it's helpful just to actually see it yourself and see it in action and be able to visualize. So on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see the admin console. And so we're looking at a user policy that's called Smart Lock. On the left-hand side, you can see in blue the request that you would send to the policy API. And you can specify, so you specify the OU, you specify the particular policy you're looking for, Smart Lock in this case. And then in the green, you can see a snippet from the response. So you'll see it has the value, of course, it has the OU information about exactly where the policy was configured. So you'll be able to see the same info, essentially whether you're using the admin console or using the API. All right, and lastly, I wanted to mention the directory API. So the directory API has existed for a number of years, and it will continue to complement the policy API. So while the policy API will handle settings and apps, the directory API will continue to provide device information, asset tracking, reporting, and device actions like lock and reset. So these two APIs work hand in hand, and using them, you'll be able to automate all of the core management features for Chrome. And there's tons of great tools out there, by the way, that use these APIs for making things really simple. There's a very popular open source tool called GAM that allows you to run scripts from the command line. So there are a variety of tools that take advantage of these APIs and make things really simple for you to use. So wrapping up, we talked about 3 areas today. The first is 500 policy is now available in Admin Console. The second is expanding policy support to groups as well as organizational units. And lastly, the brand new Chrome Policy API, which allows you to script and automate policy changes. So thank you all for attending, and we would welcome any questions at this time. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start over with the question. So Dave asks, is there a way to compare policies of different OUs against each other? So the answer is, so with the policy API, you can very simply download all of the policies. You can put all of them either into code, so you can write some code yourself, or you can just export them into, for instance, a spreadsheet and do a comparison that way. So it makes it easy to compare policies at scale among different OUs, but it's not a direct tool for comparing policies. It's just an API that would enable you to do that. Okay, so thanks, Dave, for the question. Dwayne asks, is there anything in the pipeline to streamline the enrollment process? So the answer is yes. We're adding zero-touch enrollment to a variety of different devices. So that's not something that will be exclusive to higher end devices by any means. It will be available to many different Chromebooks. So with the zero touch enrollment feature, the devices will get to your school already enrolled by the manufacturer. And so that's a nice service that you can take advantage of. And there are a variety of service providers that will do this for you as well. So that's how you would do zero touch enrollment. Okay, Jasmine asks, is there a way to export the settings that have been set at all OU levels? So what you'll see if you take advantage of the API is that you can make an API call to get all of the settings that are set at the individual OU. So you'll see whether those settings were set at that specific OU, whether they might have been inherited from a parent OU. So you can get all of the information that way and see quickly where those are happening. Sam asks, are we able to force an update at a specific time? So there are a number of policies for controlling updates in terms of when they get downloaded and applied, as well as if they get applied and the user is in the middle of something, how long would the user have before they have to reboot their device and get that applied. So there are a variety of policies to control that. There's not a way to say at a particular time, at 2:30, I want to start downloading the update, because there's just a variety of network conditions. So it might vary in terms of how long it takes to download or apply, et cetera. But you can put some parameters around when those things might happen. So thank you, Sam, for the question. Aaron asks, how is the Google API different from GAM? Great question. So GAM is a third-party tool. It's not built by Google, but it's an open source tool that's quite popular that essentially wraps the Google APIs and makes them available from the command line. So if you're used to using GAM for instance, creating users or moving devices, it's actually using these APIs that we just talked about. It's using those in the background, but it makes them accessible through the command line so that you can use them very easily. Okay, Chip asks, do you recommend that the devices be placed in the OU of the user? So we see a variety of different solutions for this. So we certainly see it done both ways. You could have just a devices tree that kind of mirrors the user tree, or you can have everything integrated together. The nice thing about Chromebooks is that all of the device policies are separate from the user policies. So it really doesn't matter actually if you have them in the same OU or a separate OU. You control them separately, and so it's really up to you how you like to structure things. Okay, we have a question about, can we shut down Chromebooks, not sleep by OU? I don't think we have that feature, but that's a great feature request. Thanks. All right, Shannon asks, we use kiosk mode for testing, but only able to add specific kiosk apps and not kiosk as a link in the past. Shannon, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to there, but you can definitely configure kiosk apps, and we're also adding support for kiosk web apps as well. So you'll be able to configure just any URL that you can run in kiosk mode. So that may be what you've been asking about. That's available as well. Okay, we have a great question here. Are there any celebrations planned for Chrome version 100? I don't know, but that's a good suggestion. I'll have to take that one back to the team. We're getting there. I think we're about to roll out Chrome version 90, so just a little ways away from 100. Any more questions? Feel free to leave them in the chat. Chip asks, is there a way to get a list of all the policies? Yes, so actually through the policy API, what you'll see is not only that you can get the policies that you've actually configured, but you can also get a list of all of the policies that are available to configure. So it's sort of an API to figure out the rest of the API. So for instance, you can make an API call to see there's this policy and it has these possible values, and here's the format for how you can configure it. So yes, absolutely, that is included as well. Brandy asks, we are recently having issues with policies that we have not had before on non-Chromebook devices. So I might need some more information on the types of policies that you're asking about. We are constantly adding new policies. So as you saw in the slides, that list has grown quite significantly over the years, and also bringing more and more policies to all different platforms, Chrome browser, wherever that runs. It sounds like maybe you have a specific question though. I would encourage you if you use Chromebook management, if you've purchased the Chrome Education upgrade, you do have access to 24/7 support. It's an awesome support team, and so they will be happy to help work through any specific questions that you have about that. Is there a policy to clear cache? No, there's no policy to clear cache at this time, but again, that's a great idea. Thanks, Laura, for the suggestion. Any more questions? These are great questions. Okay, well, we will wrap up there. Thanks everyone for attending. Really appreciate it. Hope you learned something about Chrome Education Upgrade, and have a great rest of your day.